Welcome to Retired Life. Wish you were here. I'm Kim Lee, your host, and today I have Maria Barnett, my longtime friend and co host for our Retired Life podcast, where we take a look at life after the 9 to 5, and it's nothing what some people think. So get ready to get rewired. Today, I'm excited to welcome Donna Jennings. Dr. J, PhD, a retired sex therapist, college professor, and a writer with nearly 5 decades in the field of human sexuality. She's the creator of Purple Sex and Love Beyond Your Dreams, a guided journal helping women explore intimacy, desire, and self discovery at every stage of life. Dr. J also hosts the Sexuality Space series and champions sex positive conversations for all ages. Welcome, Dr. J. We're so happy to have you here.
Well, I fell into this field totally by accident. Y'all started talking about being college roommates. Well, I went to college for 3 semesters and probably took a course in every department and had no clue what I wanted to get a degree in. So I dropped out of school and I ended up getting a job with Adam and Eve in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And the owner had a master's in public health, and he created this whole business because his research showed that people would like to have sexuality information in the privacy of their home. The minute I saw that and saw the research piece, I went to get a degree, got a second degree, got a third degree. Everything was focused on sexuality. And I think the whole idea of being in that space itself set up the idea of permission, that this is a topic that we can talk about. And all the people who worked at Adam and Eve were very open and non-judgmental. And I think it just set the course for where I was going to go with the work that I've done.
So Donna, you were a college professor for a while. What was it that you were teaching, and where did you teach?
I taught at Florida State University, and I taught at Tallahassee Community College. I taught human development, child development, marriage and family, human sexuality. And I also did clinical work because my PhD is in marriage and family therapy. I came back in and provided training for students in sex therapy specifically.
So you started first. Did you do family counseling and then transition?
Taught at Florida State University, and I taught at Tallahassee Community College. I taught human development, child development, marriage and family, human sexuality. And I also did clinical work because my PhD is in marriage and family therapy. I came back in and provided training for students in sex therapy specifically.
So, after you retired, I ran into you at that point. We were in a book writing class, and I had known you for years just through social activities, but we ran into each other in a book writing class, and you said, I'm writing sexuality books. And so, how did that evolve from retiring from being a professor?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I was teaching at TCC 2010 to 2014. My son had just started college, and I wanted to be back in the classroom again. And when my husband said, okay, I'm ready to retire, he's 6 years older than me. And I said, yeah, okay, but I'm not quite at that place. And my students, I told them there won't be a next semester, you're my last class, they freaked out because they told all their friends, you've got to take this human sexuality class. And they said, well, you can still keep doing this. And I said, what do you mean? They said, you tell great stories. You have the history, you have the science, you have everything it takes to let people still get good sex education. And I'm looking at them going, what are you talking about? They said, chapter 5 in the textbook, fantasies. You need to write fantasies. And I was like, okay. And so I met Kim. I started, what's the basic? I've done academic writing. I have not done creative writing. So I started that process and met Rachel Kramer Bussell, who is probably the most prolific editor for erotica work in the United States. She just closed out that business of her life. I think she had 60 books behind her, the editor of Best Women's Erotica. And I went to class with her. And so I got into this, seeing how all this comes together, how it works. And it's just been boom, this is the way to go.
So we think of erotica as a young person's game, myth. So tell us about some of these myths. What are the biggest myths people believe about intimacy after 60?
Well, my dad was so funny. He and I would talk about this all the time. And as he would get older, he'd say, you know, I think it's true. Use it or lose it. And let me tell you, that is the truth. We're talking about emotional, mental, spiritual, physical. It's important that you are activating all of those particular things for you. And it's funny because when I started writing erotica, I was probably almost 20 years past menopause. I had menopause extremely early in my life, and I was needing more. And erotica, which is defined as and research based as a non-prescription, a non-chemical prescription for arousal, lubrication, desire, and orgasm for women. This is scientifically proven. So I'm writing this, it's making me feel better physically. And, these little items that are right over here over my head, that's called a Ruby Glow vibrator. It is a sit-on vibrator. And you start thinking about the writing that you want to do, the fantasy that you're creating, and you put that in your chair and have a seat on it. You just got some extra vibration to help you along the way and get it going. And so it's helping women and men who love women to understand how the process is really working.
So, how does aging affect sexual desire and how can you counter that?
I love that question, Kim. I think it's number one, to think about this time in our lives, to step into who we always thought we were going to be in the sexuality world. This is a place where we have our last chance to redefine how we see ourselves as a sexual being, and that it's really holistic in that direction. What have I done? What have I not done yet that I'm really interested in doing and don't want to have a regret for the rest of my life? And so you want to redefine sexuality, and I really look at it as pleasure based. What are you doing in your world that is providing you pleasure, with all of the senses involved? And if you think about things like love languages or erotic blueprints, you start to have a sense of what you haven't activated in your body yet. And so I think if you can get away from the idea that penis vagina intercourse is the only thing that there is, and you can start more exploration of all things that you like and how you like it. For women, we have to deal with the fact that there's medications that we can take that change things like lubrication. We need to understand that we're not 18 anymore, so we're having evolution, we're accommodating, we're adapting. My knees hurting today, I can't get in this position. How shall I deal with this? So we're all the time looking at what's the best thing for us about sexuality and bringing it, just like in writing, to the foreground, not the background in our story. We are the authors of this story. So in this story, where do I want my sexuality to sit? Who do I want to share it with? How do I want to share it? What do I want to explore? What are the different things that might come into play? So for instance, there are so many apps available. I worked for an OBGYN in Dallas who created an app called Rosie Wellness. It is for women's sexuality across the lifespan. You can go to that app and you can get lots of information that maybe you didn't know about. And I think for many people, because we have never had comprehensive sexuality education, we don't even understand how the body works. Once we understand how the body works, then we can start having conversations about what feels good, what do we like, creating body maps, all sorts of things that we can share with a partner.
And a lot of people just assume sexuality ends at a certain age.
Yeah.
I mean, you wake up one morning and there's been a chemical change. And you go, oh, wow, I can't get the fantasy I was having last week.
Yeah.
It's just not there. So what do you,
Yeah.
give us some information on
Yeah.
combating that.
I think I like to use the work of Dr. David Snarch, and he created what's known as the quantum model. So we take a look at how much our brain, everything between our ears, our biggest sexual organ right here, how much it works to give us what we need, and then how much our body works. So if you think about it like gears that go like this, how much physical sensation do I need and how much mental sensation do I need to hit the arousal point in my body, which is a reflex, and then how much more physical or emotional do I need to hit the orgasm part. So for me, in the aging component with the menopause on this end, I needed more mental stimulation. So my fantasies might be more on the edge of, well, I'd never do that in real life, but I'll do that in my head. And that causes the reflex point to happen. Or maybe I need more of the physical stimulation, which is how many interesting tools can I come up with? What things are going to help my body? So different types of vibrators might come into play, using things like Vela Bioscience. It's a specific CBD oil for women that helps them soothe muscle in the vaginal and the vulva area to activate, to go through the processes that it needs to go through. And this is where the sex education comes in. Do you even understand what the processes are? And what do you need to have to keep yourself alive, feeling good? You know, which vitamins are you taking now? All of these different things that come into play, but it's you stepping into you to say, I am worth this. I am still a sexual being and it will be with me until I die. So, how can I activate more? And I think more is the direction that people can be thinking about. So, you know, what kind of lube
Yeah.
are you using? What kind of different things are you allowing to come in? Are you reading erotica with your partner? Are you acting in interesting and fun ways together, flirting and having a good time? All of those things come into play, things that you may have done historically, but you want to do more of it now.
So, Donna, let's think in retirement age. We've got obviously some people are going to lose their partners in life, and now you're at a certain age, and then you've got to start all over. How do you even start that conversation, let's say in your 60s, 70s, with a new partner? How do you start that all over and get somebody on board with you? Let's say you're even having these thoughts. What do you recommend to a client?
Easier to say, you know, this is who I am. This is what I think. This is what I like than it was when we were 18 to, you know, whatever. Um, But the kicker is we have to be able to own that for ourselves. I mean, we're getting to the point where life is getting short. Why waste time? This is who I am. This is how you experience me. This is what it looks like. And I think when we're in the South. I mean, I grew up in North Carolina, been in Florida a large portion of my life. And there are a lot of things that we've been taught not to talk about. And this is me saying I can stand up in front of people and have this conversation. In the process of you know, what have you liked? What do you like? What are you interested in? So you create a sexual menu, if it were, your restaurant. So you're going, what would I like as appetizers? What would I like as a main course? What's the special of the day? And that can vary per day based on your energy. There's a and I've left some resources because I didn't want everybody to feel like, oh my goodness, where do I go with this? So Kim, I've left you a group of resources that people can check in books and apps and that sort of thing. But there's a woman who created this idea called spontaneous desire and responsive desire. Her name is Liz Nagoski. And when we were kids, younger, that's what I'm saying, kids, not babies, when we were kids, um, something occurs and we are instantly attracted. Sexuality is alive. It's on fire. It's like nerve endings. Let's set the mood. Let me get things around me that I like. Let's start playing around together. Exploration. What feels good? Let's converse that back and forth. And then the responsive desire can help your body activate into sexual response cycles.
You were talking to me earlier, a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about your book, Purple, Sex, and Love. And writing about sex does a lot with the aging process.
Well, I think that that's part of that owning it again. So I want to tell you a little bit about how this book started. A publisher came to me and said they wanted to create a whole thing, journals for women, and they wanted sexuality to be part of it. And I had a co-author that was a true sexuality expert. I just love her to death. And she lost her partner halfway through our project. And the publisher said, well, how do you want to do this? And I said, I don't know. And so I came up to the mountains and I thought about it. How am I going to do this? And so second chakra is creativity. Second chakra is sexuality. So we're still aligned with that. We're still connected to it. Writing is an energy component of creativity. And so if it's coming out of the same place, for me, nature is really huge. So when I came up here, one of the things that I did was to create this card deck. And this was the card that was the start of my work. And so I looked at this as earth, and this one is water. And so we're looking at elements, fire, and this one is air. And so I thought about the journal, and I thought about all of the things that I would love for women to be able to step into themselves, to talk about fantasy, to talk about intimacy, to talk about gender, to talk about um, sexual behaviors. So I created these different categories, all tied to cards. And after I created this, I wrote the journal. So then I realized that the journal and the cards go together. But the real creativity was when I moved from this book, the journal, to this book, the fiction erotic romance story. And this is called Shadows and Silhouettes.
So I have to get that one.
And so if you think about writing and sexuality, it's a place that you can stay focused on the idea that you are a sexual being. If you look at clothes that you're wearing, if you think about how you put them on, how they feel on your skin, if you look at colors that you like, if you're starting to activate senses, then you're tapping into brain and body connections about sexuality. And the journal is a way experientially to tap into all of these different areas and to do things like create those sexual menus, or to create a mandala. Let's make art, bringing sexuality into art, bringing art out of sexuality, and starting to activate many more areas of who you are as a person into the sexuality.
When we were talking about it, you said writing affects the aging process. Like it can help
you.
with not, I'm not sure how it was worded.
Writing is such a personal thing. And when you say, for instance, Maria, when you asked about how do you talk to someone, you can say, I'm somebody who likes to write down my fantasies. And the writing down of a fantasy allows something wonderful to come out of you. And then you may or may not choose to share that with a person, but you know what that feels like inside of you. That could become a little flirty part, but you have something concrete. And writing is so personal. I mean, all of our identities, everything about our entire lifespan has sexuality data all around it. We know when we had our first kiss. We know when we had the first something in our body that said, wow, that feels pretty interesting. What is that? I mean, we have all of these data points and they're all still there. And writing can help us tap into those, remembering back, bringing something forward, addressing something in the present is a great way to be creative with yourself and or with another person. And that part's pretty interesting, to create a story together in the I'll start and then you add on to it. I'll start and you add some more to this. So you have, if you think about it as sexuality is adult play, well, we know how to play as little kids. Well, all of those things are in effect. We do role plays. We do drama. We do finger paints. We do all of these things that we can still do in our adult time. It's just got the sexuality connotation attached to it. So if you don't know anything about body paints, you better go get you some body paint and have a good time. Or doing this with chocolates or any of these different things that you're just working a new way to think about this fits in my mind and this fits with my body, and starting to write those things out will give you that information, which is the whole point of journaling. I mean, so many people find that they reflect back to themselves, and sometimes when we say things aloud, it goes into our ears differently. So we read, wrote, and we can hear things differently. So I think that's an important component too.
How come someone gets started if they've never written anything about, they've never journaled, they've never written sexual
or
fantasies?
any type of writing,
Right.
they're
Well,
just
yeah,
not,
there's that. But in your journal, how do they get started, get their head into it, wrapped around it?
Well, the cool part is that this journal is a facilitated journal. So it says, do this, try this, check this out. And one of the things that I was very clear with the publisher that I wanted to do is that I provided sexuality information throughout the journal. So for instance, purple sex sensuality concepts to consider. And I've listed information in the book here that you can do. And then resources, I listed, I don't know how many pages of resources in the back of the book so that they have places to go to. So it's, how do I do this? That's a facilitated journal. It'll give you a step-by-step. I've had several men contact me and say they've had more fun working with their partner doing this, that they felt like it was everything. And the writing just is an additional component. I tell people, go look at any movie that you love and look at the scene that was really hot and use your pause button, like now write it down. And that's a great way to start a process in the fantasy of writing. So think about Outlander's wedding scene. You have 3 different episodes in that one scene. The one episode has 3 different sexuality scenes in it. So it makes it really interesting to see the differences and then try to write them down. Write what you see.
Perfect. Well, Donna, thank you. We've got a little flashing running out of time on our screen. I really want to get you back because
there's so much to talk about.
I can't even.
We're learning so much.
We just took a little safety pin.
Well, I'm happy to be back.
So thank you very much. And you are going to get in your mail one of our, if you look behind me, one of our bags. I'm sending it to you for Retired Life and some koozies. So thank you for talking with us and the information. It was really good. And then just to give our little...
Well, thank you, Kim. Thank you, Maria.
We're going to give a little shout out to our Retired Life. Ready to show off your Retired Life glow? Our Retired Life Wish You Were Here merch is perfect for anyone who knows life and love don't have an expiration date. Grab a sexy tumbler, a cheeky t-shirt, or a tote that lets folks know you're still bringing the heat. Shop now and keep the good vibes coming. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you.